Okay, back with details on clay sculptures. So any kind of detail that you want to make two of, you have to make both of those and then attach. Otherwise, it's really hard to get two that are the same size. So I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So let's say I want to make two ears. I'm kind of going the canine route, so I'm going to make two like dog ears. I'm going to start off with two balls of clay that are about the same size. If these are not the same size now, it's going to be really hard to make two ears that are the same size. So try to make sure they're the same size now. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to transform these balls into more of like a triangle shape, which by the way, if you were making like a cat ear or something like that, you could keep the ear kind of rounded. You could even like, kind of pinch on the inside to do like, maybe that's like a cheetah ear or like a lion ear or something, or like a little bear ear. I don't know. So there's round ears, there's pointy ears, there's like big flappy elephant ears. Whatever kind of ear you're making, make both of them first, okay? So there's one ear. I'm going to take my other ball, kind of pinch that guy into like a triangle shape. And then I'm going to flatten it out a little bit more like my other guy. All right, so there's two ears that are roughly the same size and shape. If I don't think they're the same size and shape, well, now this is the time to do something about that, not once I've attached one, okay? Once I like my ears, I'm going to slip and score and attach. Remember the slipping and scoring, you take your paper clip. Oh, and by the way, you should leave one part of your paper clip kind of rounded like that, so because later we're going to use it to kind of carve in like eye sockets and things like that. So to slip and score, guys, remember you scratch both surfaces that are going to touch, paint the slip on both surfaces, attach, and smooth those out so they look thoroughly attached, okay? All right, so ears, wings, if you're making two arms, two antlers, anything that you're making before, or anything that you're making that is two of, that there's two that you want the same size, same shape, you're gonna wanna make those first and then attach. So let's say I'm making antlers. By the way, antlers, you're gonna need to leave those antlers a little bit thicker than you might want them. Like this would probably be minimum thickness for antlers, because if you make them much skinnier, they're just really hard to make them hold up their own weight. And then anytime you want to add like the little prongy pieces or the ends to the antler. In fact, what I think I'm going to do to the end of my antler is I think I'm going to cut this guy right here. And I'm going to I'm just going to kind of branch the end out, and that'll help me make more of like a convincing look for an antler. So I'm going to cut this guy here, cut a little deeper to match the other one. And again, make these, and then once they look the right shape and size, then you can slip and score and attach your antlers. So I'm going to have my antlers come around here. Pretend I slipped and scored these. I know I didn't. They would fall off. Trust me, once this guy starts to dry, they're going to be like, oh, my antlers are laying on the ground. That's sad, okay? Slip and score them. Trust me, okay? All right, there's antlers. If you guys want to make, I'm going to make like a unicorn horn or like ram horn. On these ones, I like to make them look kind of triangular. So I'm just going to kind of give it like I'm pressing into here. So like if you saw it from an aerial view, it would look like a triangle. And then what you can do is you can actually give those guys a twist. Now, obviously, I have a little bit extra on here. You will want to have extra with your ears or your antlers or your horns so that you can attach those to your sculpture and not like, lose part of the important part. So see, like this flat plain part at the bottom, that's what I'm going to use to attach my unicorn horn on. If you want to make them ram horns, you could give them like a little bit of a curl to them. Don't worry too much about the cracking going on in the horn. What you can do later is we're going to go in and dip our finger in water and we'll do some smoothing. And you'll see that you can smooth out all of those cracks. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm getting a little close to myself. Sorry, I do that as I work. Okay, so anyway, I could slip and score and attach this unicorn horn on. The next thing I want to show you guys is how to make eyes. Oh, you know what? Before I do eyes, let me maybe do like tails and wings. So tails can look like various things. There's lots of different kinds of tails out there. Basically, they're skinnier at the end. That's kind of a basic tail thing, unless it's like a horse tail. That might look consistent all the way through. But roll yourself a coil of clay. Oh, and this might go for making arms as well, or antlers. You're going to roll a coil, make sure it's skinnier at the end. If you're doing like a lizard tail or something, you might want it to curl up at the edge here. Sorry, I hope that I'm doing this inside the camera. I keep forgetting and I just kind of get close to myself. So that would be like tails, arms, antlers. We're, of course, not going to do legs underneath because it'd be really hard to do legs that can hold up the weight of all this clay. Oh, wings. Okay, let me show you guys wings. So if you want to do wings, you're going to take an area of clay, or you could take two separate areas of clay. You might want to just do one, like one mound of clay. And then you're going to flatten it down to the board and flip flatten and flip, flatten and flip. I wouldn't do wings that span out like, 4 inches from each side, because those are going to get broken, okay? Once this clay dries, it becomes very, very brittle, and it's difficult to move them around without breaking them. If they touch another sculpture next to it when they're dry, they just crumble. So yeah, don't get too extravagant with the wings. Or I'm telling you, I'm very careful, but I'm going to break it putting it into the kiln. So please just help me out. Be careful on the wings. Okay, so there's a couple of different kinds of wings you can do. You could do like a bat wing. Sorry, let me grab a pencil real quick. I'll just draw right on here. So there's like a bat wing or a bird wing are kind of the two kinds. Bat wing would be more for like dragons. If you're doing a dragon, it's kind of pointy at the top, and then also pointy at the bottom, kind of like that. And then a bird wing kind of goes up and down, more rounded. And then of course the feathers on the edge are also more rounded, kind of like that, okay? So you just have to decide which wing you want to go with. And then when you know that, you're going to cut the wing out of your one slab that you flattened. So I'm going to cut out the shape of this bat wing that I want to attach. Cut these pointy edges, kind of like so. I'm not getting too extravagant with the wing, because of course I don't want it to get broken. All right, whatever shape you want your wing to be, it can be kind of delicate, but whatever shape you want it, then you need to take your wing, put it over the other slab that you flattened, and you're gonna trace it, okay? So this is the easiest way to make two wings at the same. If you've already attached a wing and you're like, oh, Miss Campanella, how do I make my second wing look exactly the same? I'm gonna be like, oh, you detach it, trace it, and attach them both, okay? Because that's what I told you how to do, okay? All right, so anyway, I'm gonna attach this second wing on. See, so what I did was I just traced it first, then I'm gonna cut this wing. And then, by the way, give these wings a little extra right here, because this is gonna be the part that you're gonna flatten down to your sculpture and slip and score, okay? And of course I would, finish cutting out this wing and also attach this guy on the other side, okay? All right, this is the last thing I'm gonna tell you guys. What time am I at right now? Okay, only 7 minutes, all right. So this second video is not as long. So what I'm gonna do on my little face here is I'm gonna give this guy some eyes. There are obviously multiple ways to make eyes, and a lot of animals have different kinds of eyes. So like if you're doing like a chameleon or something like that, the chameleons have very bulgy eyes. So what you might want to do for those ones is have the eye just sit right on top of the head. Sorry, I'm trying to tip this guy backwards so you can kind of see. Let me put this underneath so you can see his head a little bit better. So if you're doing a chameleon eye, just roll out 2 balls of clay trying to make sure they're the same size. This one is obviously a little bit bigger. I'm just going to pinch some of this over here. All right, let's pretend these are the same size. Once you have an eye that looks about the right size for your frog or your chameleon or whatever else has bulgy eyes, you can just slip and score and attach those on. If they're really small and it's hard for you to slip and score and attach those, I'm just gonna put a little bit more on this one actually. Another thing you could do is you could just take the eyes, dip them in water, make sure they're really, really wet, and then just like kind of plop them onto your face. I'm not gonna do it on this one because I don't want that one to get really wet. So you could just kind of press them in there, and all that moisture will kind of help to adhere them at the bottom. Just because I feel like if you were to slip and score, I'm just gonna act like I'm attaching 2 eyes to this guy. If you were to slip and score your eyes, you might actually mess up the shape of the eyes. So I'm not gonna make you do that unless it's something that you think you should do or you can do without messing it up. Okay, so I'm gonna show you another way to make eyes that are not bulgy, because a lot of animals have eyes that are sort of set into like an eyebrow bone. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to kind of press in and kind of make that shape already. I'm gonna use the back of my paper clip to carve out an area. This is gonna be my eye cavity where my eye is gonna sit. Now all this clay that I got out of there is actually the perfect size for an eyeball to go right back in there. Now these eyeballs obviously are much, much smaller. Again, just like anything you're making 2 of, you wanna make them first, then attach them, okay? So I'm trying to look at this figure straight on. If you have an animal where the eyes are like way out to the side and it's kind of hard to see them from the front, then you might have to just, rotate your animal back and forth. I'm now seeing that my face is not very symmetrical. So here's gonna be my other eye. Now these did not end up the same size. I might have to carve out a little bit more from one of these sides. I feel like this one looks a little maybe... All right, here, let's try that. That might help. Okay. So once you have your eyeballs and they are the same size, the next thing you're gonna do, because these are so tiny, is definitely just dip them in water. Whoop, got away from me. And then press them into the eye cavity right there, okay? Press them in kind of firmly. Obviously, you don't wanna press them too hard to where you like flatten out this ball, because you don't wanna do that. But just press them in. Try to make sure that they're looking kind of symmetrical from the front view. Okay, and then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make an eyelid to go over this, okay? So to make the eyelid, you just take a lump of clay, roll it into a long skinny coil. Whenever I say coil, it's just like a noodle of clay, kind of like this. And then once you have one that's like kind of even in thickness on both sides, I'm just gonna break it in half. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dip this guy in water, or if your clay is really moist, you don't have to dip it in water. And I'm just gonna lay it over the eye socket on both sides. Now, you know what, this is actually an excessive amount of clay. I'm just gonna break that in half, roll them, flatten them again, just flatten them out a little bit, not completely flatten them. And then I'm just gonna lay this over the eye, okay? This is gonna be my eyelid. So what's gonna happen, I'm gonna dip that in water, pretend I did already, and then I'm gonna smear it out on the top only, okay? I'm not gonna smear it out on the bottom, because if you smear it out on the bottom, you're gonna get rid of all that beautiful eye detail, okay? So just on the top, I'm gonna either use my fingernail, like the back of my fingernail, or what you can use, honestly, is you can use your paintbrush and just kind of smooth that edge down so that it looks like it's attached on there and part of this guy's face. So now you can see I made a very convincing sort of eye cavity for my sculpture. If you would like to do eyes that way, it would get much more detailed. At this point, feel free to carve in anything else you want to carve in. If you want to carve in, you know, like really defined like cheekbones or nostrils. Maybe I'm going to carve some nostrils out for this dragon-looking dog thing. I'm not sure. Horse, antlers, I don't know what it is. It's like a horse, deer, cow. Dragon. Okay, so there we go. If you want to carve in, like, you know, like how a lot of like animals have neck muscles that you can see, like especially horses have like really defined muscles through the neck. Maybe on like the chest, you even want to carve out like a chest and shoulder joints here, kind of carve in. Feel free to use that paper clip, that back of that paper clip as a carving tool to do that, okay? You can carve in textures. You could put like scales or something on your sculpture. And yeah, just make sure that there's no trapped air. Make sure there's nothing wider than your finger so that the clay can dry out and not trap water. Because if there's trapped air or trapped water, it's going to blow up when it gets into the kiln, okay? And I think that's it. Good luck.